Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to this week's Ingles Furman Radio Network preview. I am Dan Scott, voice of the Paladins. Furman on the road, the final non-conference game of this 2024 campaign, and it's a pretty important one against a really good team. Number 12, William and Mary will be the opponent, a 6 o'clock kick on Saturday night, and we will have all the coverage for you. We'll talk about that toward the end of our preview. But it's good to have you with us. Looking forward to having you join David Cobb, Tom Van Hoy, and me when we get together and bring you the broadcast, beginning with the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday night. And Dwayne Vaughn this week told me that he looks at this game as a litmus test for the Paladins because still trying to figure out a little bit of identity, trying to get some things squared away before the conference season opens next week here at Furman against Samford, and doing it on the road against a high-quality opponent in William and Mary, who, as I mentioned, they're number 12 in the country. They're 3-0 out of the gate, and it's a game that's going to, I think, tell us a lot about the progress Furman has made. You know, Clay Hendricks has said a couple of times he wished they had played a game before Ole Miss because he didn't really get a sense of where the team was and maybe who they were and what they needed to really focus on until after the Charleston Southern game. Well, Stetson gives you an opportunity last week to work on some of those things in game action, but against an opponent that obviously was inferior, and the 48-7 score pointed that out. But the numbers are what they are, and as we take a look at the statistical matchup between these teams, Furman's numbers heavily skewed, you might say, in two directions. One, the Ole Miss loss really on the negative side, and you're able to make up some ground on the Stetson side, but the numbers are what they are. And when you look at the matchup, William and Mary through 3 games leads every statistical category on your screen there, except for passing offense, where Furman has a 39-yard advantage, and rushing defense, where the Paladins are allowing 30 yards less per game than the Tribe. Where William and Mary is really, really good is in the balance of their offense. You take a look at that 397, basically 398 yards of offense per game, 201 through the air, 197 on the ground. When you're able to do that, that makes it very difficult for opposing defenses to really zero in on one aspect or the other, and that's why in talking with Dwayne Vaughn this week, he mentioned the fact, again, that their goal is to try to make teams one-dimensional. Quick look at the series number. Furman leads 8-7. These teams haven't played, though, since all the way back on September the 16th, 2000. So we're talking about almost exactly 24 years. The Paladins won that game 34-10 and have won 2 straight in the series, 6 of the last 10. But again, they haven't played since 2000. In Williamsburg, William and Mary leads the series 5-3. When you talk about the Tribe offense, it centers around their running game, and they run behind a veteran, experienced offensive line led by Charles Grant, their 4-year starter at left tackle, who was a first-team FCS All-American a year ago. And they have their top running back, Bryson Yoder, missed the 2023 season. He is a 4-year starter, an all-CAA performer, a Walter Payton watch list running back, and through 3 games, 240 yards, 3 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards per carry, and he also has 4 receptions for 61 yards. He is kind of the big, bruising power back kind of guy. I'd say big. He's 5'11", 205, but more of a power-type runner. Their change-up guy, Malachi Emo, has 95 yards rushing through their first 3 games, averaging 4.5 yards per carry, a couple of touchdowns, and also 5 catches for 73 yards. So they've got a nice 1-2 punch in the backfield. But the guy you're going to see all over the field for them is Hollis Mathis. He is a 4-year starter. He's a former quarterback, and they will actually move him into the the quarterback spot. Sometimes he takes the snap. Sometimes he's there as a decoy. But from a receiving standpoint, 13 receptions for 162 yards. He's thrown 2 passes. He's completed them both for 30 yards, and he has 6 carries for 28 yards and a touchdown. Easily their best athlete. They move him all over the place and try to find different ways to get him the ball. They have an experienced quarterback, a 4-year starter, in Darren Wilson, who's thrown for 540 yards and 3 touchdowns and has 95 rushing yards and a couple of TDs there as well. So a mobile guy who can make things happen. Furman's best bet in this game is going to be, can they make them one-dimensional? Can they slow that running game? Can they contain Bryson Yoder and force them into more of a passing attack? And if they can do that, then they're going to have a chance to be successful defensively. Also talked to Dwayne Vaughn this week about the amazing thing among coaches. When something gets on film, it's out there until you figure out how to stop it. And when Charleston Southern hit those 2 jump balls for touchdowns, you knew you were going to see that again. And sure enough, Stetson last week, isolated receivers, threw jump balls. They hit 1 completion, got a couple of pass interference calls, something that they've been working on and continue to work on in practice. Dwayne told me they got really good work this week from Justin Roper's offensive guys on trying to do better about reading the keys as a defensive back, getting your head turned in time, and making a play on the ball. And until they do, they're going to keep seeing it. So don't be surprised if William and Mary starts throwing a jump ball here and there over the course of this contest. From the Furman offensive standpoint, the Paladins, the running game numbers don't look overly impressive. And I had a really interesting conversation with Justin Roper that you'll hear on the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff. All is not as it seems. Stetson, for instance, spent the entire game in what's called zero coverage. In other words, they had man-to-man on the outside, no help over the top, and they were blitzing pretty much every down, A, to get after the quarterback, and B, to flood the rush lanes. So what do you do if you're Justin Roper? Well, you call a lot of slants. As an extension of the running game, they hit 90% of those and averaged about 9 yards per catch against that defense, using those slants as a way to run the ball without actually handing it off. Trey Hedden had a fantastic game in his first career start, looking to have the true freshman continue to improve, and he's going to be going against a veteran defensive group. It's really going to be a fun matchup, I think, and I'm looking forward to Furman playing its best game of the season so far, and quite honestly, they're going to have to going on the road against the number 12 team in the country. Let's take a look at the SoCon standings right now, and there's only been 1 league game played. Mercer won it. Chattanooga lost it last week. But Mercer, new coaching staff, they're 3-0 out of the gate. Citadel, after going 0-11 last year, they're 2-1. Wofford is 2-1, and of course, they at home were throwing into the end zone in the final play of the game against William and Mary last Saturday to try and tie that game. Then you have ETSU at 1-2, Furman 1-2, Western Carolina 1-2, and then 3 teams still looking for their first wins of the season. Sanford at 0-2, VMI, and maybe surprisingly Chattanooga, to a certain degree anyway, at 0-3. This week's schedule, besides our game, you've got VMI at home against Norfolk State. That is a 1:30 kick. Western Carolina goes across the country to play that Montana team that Furman had the classic matchup in the playoff quarterfinals last year, the overtime loss. That's a 3 o'clock kick. ETSU at Elon at 6 o'clock, and the Citadel will be at Mercer at 6 p.m. Our game with William and Mary also a 6 o'clock start. From a broadcast standpoint, it will be available via Flow Sports, and I am told that that's a $30 a month subscription. If you want to pay for that, fine. Just remember, we've got you covered on the radio broadcast, and it costs you absolutely nothing. The Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff at 4:30 p.m., kickoff at 6 o'clock via the Fan Upstate, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 in Spartanburg, and everywhere around the world via Odyssey.com and the Odyssey app. And also, don't forget Booth Cam on my personal Facebook page and X page and the Furman football Facebook page as well. You can listen to the broadcast there and watch the interaction in the booth. It is going to be a fun evening. I really believe that. I believe we're going to see the best effort the Paladins have put together so far in 2024. And if they can come away with a win, man, won't that be setting them up with some great momentum heading into the conference opener 1 week from Saturday here at Paladin Stadium against Samford. We'll find out. It's going to be tough. William & Mary is a good football team. It's going to be a great challenge. It's going to be a fun broadcast. Hope that you'll join us here on the Ingles Furman Radio Network if you're not making the trip. Until 4:30 with the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff on Saturday, I'm Dan Scott. God bless you, and so long, everybody.